We got Lewis Black here on the phone. Really excited to talk to him here. You can see him live at the Coronado Thursday night. And you all right there, Lewis?
I'm just making coffee.
Okay, all right, that's fine.
I wanted people to have sound effects during our interview.
That's really good. Hey, Lewis, if you allow me for like 40 seconds here to fanboy out a little bit, I'm a kind of a stand-up nerd. I've been digging your stuff for a long time. You're honestly,
that's very kind.
You're honestly one of the first ones that you said a joke that stuck with me for a really long time. Specifically, if it weren't for my horse, I'd never spent that year in college. One of the funniest bits I'd ever heard. I mean, to this day, I still even refer to a big thing of coffee as a hodl of coffee, even though I've never heard hodl used, I think, in the wild. But it's still always been a hodl of coffee. I want to let you know that one of the best bits I'd ever heard. I was really interested. You know, you gotten to a point of fame, and that bit's a pretty famous bit. Anybody ever approach you and said, you know, I was the girl that spent a year in college because of the horse?
No, I've had people who will send me things and ask, "Did you ever find out what that meant?" And did you? Or that I have people who had friends who had horses who ended up going to school because apparently I didn't know this at the time, but you know that you can go to college and you know they have equestrian teams,
right?
Which is and
dressage.
So I have people who send me in and say, you know, I think this is the person, but that's about it.
You haven't actually tracked her down yet. That's a goal. No. I mean, maybe we can get that out there. And
but I'll tell you, you want to hear an interesting story? It's that I rarely tell. The same night that happened, another potential bid occurred, but it was like so much, and so I'm sitting in a. I was so in. That made me so nuts, that story, that we left that IHOP and we went to another place, a diner. And I'm going to clean the language up a bit.
Appreciate it.
Sitting there. Now we're sitting in a diner. There are two guys sitting at the counter. We're sitting literally at a booth across from them. And the guys, you know, kind of in a very loud voice, you know, he says, they're having an argument about morality. Mm-hmm. And he says, no, you should go ahead and do it, okay? Just do it. And he's going, I think it's wrong. And he goes, no, it's not wrong. It's the same way it's not wrong. Remember that the time when I slept with your girlfriend in order to show you that she was a slut? See, that wasn't wrong.
He's right.
It's unbelievable. That was the second. That occurred the same night as the horse.
It's almost too unbelievable. You can't bring that up on stage. I don't want to say not too many crazy conversations at once.
It's too much back to back, and it kind of almost. And the other one is so stunning. This one is almost a different story and completely. It's like you save it for another night.
Right. Lewis Black coming into town Thursday night, January 30th, out at the Coronado. Coming to Rockford. You've been doing this for a while. When did you start doing stand-up comedy?
I started doing it I started doing it on and off in just for fun. Really, when I was 21 when I went on stage for the first time. 20.
Okay.
And my friends had a band, and it was in Chapel Hill, and I was just out of school that summer, and I was 21, and they said, why don't you come down? I was one of those people. I was considered. I had funny stories that I told. They said, why don't you come down and tell some of those stories? So I did, and I kind of would, and that was I started doing that, and then on and off I would do stand up from that point on, which is about 40 some odd years ago.
Well, that job's taking you across the country. I'm sure you've seen many places. I know you've blown through Rockford before in the past.
Oh, this is like I played Rockford with Jimmy Dore.
Oh, wow!
Way back. Way back. I was the headliner. Jimmy was the middle act, and we played what was essentially a one-nighter at what was a disco.
Oh, really?
And it was brutal. It was in Rockford, and that was and I remember it only because it was the first time I was in Rockford, and and Jimmy and I were together for the week, and he was very funny, still very funny, and so it was kind of amazing. And then the last time we were in Rockford, or maybe the time before, I can't really remember. We stayed at a motel there, and the cops had us come out. The cops came and told us to leave because there was a domestic incident in one of the rooms.
That's going to happen.
They wanted us out of the. I said, "Oh, good. Things are going really well here in Rockford."
So if you had a young comedian that was making a trip through Rockford, what would you tell him the crowd's like, atmosphere? What would he expect coming to Rockford to do a show?
Depending, I would, you get a good audience in Rockford. The problem is that this is just being sure to figure out how to get the folks out there.
That's that.
See the show. I've always had the same amount of people come see a show in Rockford. Always. Well, except for that when I was playing the disco.
The disco. That was a tough go.
I've been playing the theater. It's always about within 100. And so finally I said, wait a minute. There's got to be a way to get more people. I'm gonna pay for a billboard. Mm-hmm. Because that way I'm going to be sure that these people see it. Well, still the same amount of people showed up.
Well, sorry, we'll try to refund that billboard money for you coming up here.
I was glad to help the economy.
That's awesome. We appreciate it. Like I said, I'm a big comedy nerd. I've been following it for a long time, and I think a lot of times, you think you put a little more self-worth into your own hobbies. And one of the things I've always kind of felt as stand-up comedians, they're almost the philosophers of our day. One of the few people out there that are actually looking critically what's going on and puts a mirror up to society. Am I thinking too much of the profession here, or is it more just broken people trying to talk through their life stories on stage?
No, I think it's a span. I think some are really you could be considered to be at the philosopher end of the thing, and then some are really just at the other end where it's honk, honk, quack, quack. And then there's these people who I think, and you see them from time to time, you're watching somebody on TV and go, wow, everybody's laughing, I don't get it. And it's not funny, but they seem very confident. And they're almost, and there's some comics who do this, that are like this, where you've seen them, they're so confident that they're funny, that the audience feel obligated to laugh because these guys seem so confident. Even though they're not laughing because it's funny, they're just going, wow, I guess he thinks he's funny, so
he's funny.
Let him think he's funny.
I've been to those shows. I know those shows.
You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely.
And the joke is not funny. You sit there and go, really? These people are laughing?
Well, one of the bugaboos I have about stand-up comedy right now, one of the things I don't like, and I see a lot of my favorite comedians actually going to this crutch, I don't know if it's the right word, but complaining about what we can or can't joke about anymore. Instead of finding maybe a new way to attack a joke or another way around it, or maybe this is not time to joke about things like that. The complaining about the inability to say what you want anymore. Am I being too sensitive about that, or is that a legitimate concern? You've been around. You've done shows. Do you ever get pushback?
When they don't laugh at something, and because I know that they consider it, that it's not politically correct. That's the argument. Mm-hmm. So the argument is really not about the joke. The argument is being politically correct. Something you want to bring to a comedy show.
Right.
And if they do, if you have an audience, I can't imagine that a lot of the people who've spoken about this really have that many people showing up.
Right.
If you go to a comedy show, 95% of the people showing up, to 97% to 99%, aren't coming because they're looking for political correctness. You're worried about that 1%. Well, good job. They won.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the other thing is for the folks out there who hear something else, you don't say things that are mean about, and you can make the list. You shouldn't be mean about this or this or this. And if it's not funny, it's not funny. Mm-hmm. And it dies there. It's not like a billion people are coming, putz.
Right. I think
You're talking about rooms where 200 people show up or 50 people show up. Sometimes 20 people show up. The most, there may be 1,000, 1,200. And I'll tell you this, we make no difference, idiots. We don't make a difference.
No, I agree with you. I think as long as the sentiment, behind the joke is pure, you might offend, that 1% you're talking about with your actual verbiage. As long as the sentiment is pure, I don't think people are getting in as much trouble as they think they're going to or deserve. Is that right?
Yeah, I don't see it, and I like I said, when it happens to me, and I played some college campuses, and I know certain things that I'm coming up to, and I know how they're going to rate from time to time. I know, here's where they're going to come, and I'll do something, and I'll stop my act and go, okay, here's the deal with comedy, you idiots. Obviously, they're not teaching it at college, this college. So let me explain what it is. Here's why it may seem too much for you, because as you grow older, knock jokes don't work, putz.
This is Lewis Black. You can catch him January 30th, next Thursday at the Coronado. Before I let you go, one more here. Like I said, I listen to a bunch of podcasts. I've heard comedians talk about what you're doing right this minute, and that is doing the car wash, going through towns, talking to the local radio guys, and basically, to a man, to a woman, they all pretty much hate doing it. It's kind of the same thing all the time. So I want to do a deep dive. I wanted to find a question that no one's probably asked you before. So I went on the internet, did some research, and I was told to ask you about eating sand dollars off of a plate off at the top of somebody's refrigerator. Can you?
Oh yeah, off at the top of Kathleen Madigan's refrigerator.
She's the one.
I didn't really eat them, but I bit into it.
You bit into it?
I thought they were sugar cookies.
That's good.
I was seeing Kathleen at the time. We remain good friends.
I know you guys are. It's a great relationship you two have.
And I was staying on the beach with her at this apartment, and I thought they were cookies. Well, son of a bitch.
You didn't get through. You didn't break a tooth. There wasn't any dental work afterwards.
No, I was lucky. I kind of realized just as when it went down to my tongue, I went, "Oh, this is too salty to be a cookie."
that's pretty good. You get more of this and a whole bunch more out of Lewis Black. Lewis, thanks a lot for spending some time with me.
I really appreciate it. Tell folks to go to lewisblack.com to find out about the Rant is Due, which is the live feed I do after every show.
You got it.
Where folks in Rockford will actually can go ahead and write in what it is that's irritating to them. You should.
Absolutely.
Whatever you want, get it off your chest.
That sounds like a plan. It's Lewis Black next Thursday, January 30th at the Coronado. Thanks a lot for joining me, man. Have a good night.
Oh, thank you.
All right. Bye-bye now.